Hey there, aficionados. Kevin here from N.O.A.H, Northern Ontario Aquarium Hobby. It's been a while since I did a video. In the last video there, I talked about that I was going to be moving, and I was going to show you the tear down of the tanks and the moving and setting up of new ones and everything like that. But during the move, I severely damaged the tendons in my left hand. Ended up having to get surgery and everything like that on the hand, so I hadn't been able to really be into my tanks like physically a whole lot. Aside from behind me, you'll see sort of the beginnings of the new fish room anyways. Those are just sort of set up as holding tanks to keep the plants and fish alive in there. Fiddling around a little bit now, but at any rate, so I just wanted to, jump back into it and get going. That time off gave me some time to sort of plan out next series of videos and everything like that. So definitely stay tuned because there's more videos going to start rolling out very, very soon. So today what I wanted to talk about actually was my top 4 favorite cleanup crew. Fish and invertebrates that are in my tanks that will, help keep clean up any excess waste and everything like that. Now, of course, maintenance is the #1 priority. These are not meant to take the place of proper maintenance and care for your tanks. These are just sort of meant to help support you in that. Now, I want to make sure that the distinction is understood here as well. You'll see a lot of people talk about, someone's, got an algae outbreak and they're asking for help, and people are saying, oh, well, throw in this snail or throw in this shrimp or, throw in Siamese algae eaters or mollies, and they'll clean up that algae for you. This is not what I'm talking about here. That's not even a method that I ever suggest using to clean up your algae issues. There is a video that's going to be coming up on different algae, the causes and the solutions to them, and I just want to say that putting in a fish to deal with your algae issues, it's not the way to go. And so that's not what I'm talking about here when I talk about the cleanup crew. This is a fish that just, helps keep your tank clean, which will help keep algae at bay, and just maintains a healthy and stable system along with your proper maintenance and proper use of the fundamentals. So we'll jump right into it. My #1 favorite addition to the cleanup crew is shrimp. Personally, I use a lot of N.O.A.H, red cherries, different species from that. Red cherries just happen to be my go-to. Some Amanos I'll throw in there as well. A lot of people talk about, a team of Amanos will just like tear through algae and clean up, and yeah, that's true. Although, to be honest, I personally, at least, just haven't seen Amanos actually do more than a good strong colony of red cherries. Now, this could be, again, because I'm not throwing the shrimp in to deal with an existing algae issue. Perhaps Amanos deal with an existing algae issue really well, but as I said, that's not my purpose for putting these in here. And red cherries or any other N.O.A.H, they're a very hardy shrimp, so they can survive in a lot of different parameters and thrive and breed quite easily in those. They're very easy to care for, and as the colony expands, they're constantly at work. They're always working, cleaning up excess biofilm, excess waste that you've maybe missed in your cleanup, or if perhaps you've overfed a little bit during the week before your weekly maintenance. They're always around, picking off everything, cleaning up dead plant matter that might be existing, especially picking through the fine bits of moss. Now, I've done a species highlight on the shrimp before, so definitely go and check out that video. So I'm not going to tell you too much more aside from that, you know, they exist in a very wide range of parameters. Anything that you're really going to be using to be growing plants, they can pretty much survive in. There are certain parameters that will help them thrive a little bit more, as I mentioned in that video, so go and check that out for specifics. But I just want to say, you know, shrimp, number one, is my favorite addition to any tank for your cleanup crew. Number two for me is the Otos catfish, or Otos. I absolutely love this fish. I put them in every single one of my tanks, except for, you know, say a specific cold water tank where the parameters just aren't correct for them. You know, they get a bit of a bad rap as being a very sensitive fish. And I mean, this is because they are, you know, they're mass caught, wild caught. And so there are a lot of stresses put on them during the capture and transfer and everything like that. However, if your tank parameters are stable, you know, you're not going to see the high mortality rates that a lot of people often report. I've really never had any specific issues with mortality with them. Again, because I make sure they're introduced to a stable tank, not even specifically a mature tank, because often for me, the Otos are some of the very first fish that I will introduce into a tank, because they're just relentless cleaners. They're always on the move, cleaning the glass, cleaning your hardscape, cleaning plants, you know, any sort of potential green dust algae, which is, you know, usually one of the first algae to present itself during tank setup. Not always. Again, we'll talk about that in another video. But they're always on the move. You know, they you know, I tried to get video of them. They're always stuck to the glass and just, you know, sucking away, cleaning up, or they're, you know, they take something and then they move along, take something and move along. Fantastic to watch. I love watching these guys work. Now, it's best to have Otos. They're a fairly social fish, actually, so I never recommend having them in anything less than groups of 3. Personally, I keep them at least in groups of 5, just because they do really tend to socialize well. Now, I've also had them breed in my tanks. Now, I haven't done anything specific to try and encourage the breeding. They just have bred for me. So again, if in a stable tank, where the parameters are right for them, which again, it's quite wide. You know, I've had them in tanks that pretty much, different tanks that the width of the parameters match close to the same ones that I would put N.O.A.H in, the shrimp, and they do quite well. You know, and again, I've never had any health issues with any of them. They grow well and they've bred spontaneously for me, and even with, you know, some success. Like, I'm not having like large spawn groups, but I am having at least a reasonable rate of mortality for something that I'm not actually trying to encourage. Number 3 for the cleanup crew are snails. You know, snails sometimes get a bad rap. Different ones are considered to be pest snails. I'm going to do another video coming up again about the different varieties of snails and such, but you know, the ones that I typically use are ram's horn snails. Now, ram's horn snails do breed quite prolifically in ideal situations. Same rule with any other pest snail. If you don't overfeed, they don't overbreed. They do breed prolifically, I will say, even in clean situations. But, you know, they're a really nice looking snail to begin with, and they don't get too large at all. Maybe as large as a dime or a penny at the most, at least from what I've seen. I've not seen any quite large ones. N.O.A.H snails, a lot of people use those as well because they don't breed. But N.O.A.H I have found, I mean, everyone knows that if you have a female N.O.A.H, they'll lay eggs everywhere that won't hatch, and I just find that unsightly because, you know, you're left with these egg sacs sort of all over the place that are kind of difficult to get off. But N.O.A.H do clean up a tank quite well as as well. However, I have found that they are a little bit more aggressive with soft plant tissue. You know, and if a plant is just in sort of slight ill health, that a lot of the other sort of vegetative predators will stay away from. I have personally found that N.O.A.H can be a little bit aggressive in their cleaning and can cause damage. Now, this might not be everyone's experience, but just when I've seen them really going after a plant to clean it, I've noticed they can be a little bit rough at times. So this is why I prefer something like ram's horn. Ram's horn, again, they're constantly on the move, going around, and they will clean your hardscape, your glass, and your plants. They will not eat healthy plants, and even plants that are in slight ill health, they will eat the damaged tissue, but they won't continue on from there and destroy the rest of the healthy tissue. And sometimes, you know, when like in a situation like this where I've had to set up tanks quickly and just, you know, I'm just looking to keep the plants from not dying, not really looking to have them thrive. The ram's horns have actually been good indicators for me as to which, when plants are starting to struggle a little bit, you know, so I can, you know, pay a little bit closer attention to them in those situations where I am being lax due to different circumstances anyways. You know, because I'll see them cleaning off dead plant matter, and it's like, okay, great. I know I can start to trim those off even before I've seen any sort of algae outbreak or any other external signifiers of ill plant health. But again, you know, a good colony of ram's horn will really keep everything clean in conjunction with the other two that I've mentioned. Something as well is that if you find that your ram's horn population is getting out of control, dropping a few assassin snails in there will not decimate the population, but it will keep it under relative control. Number 4 are Corydora. Cory. There's a bunch of different varieties of them. Personally, I like, obviously for a planted tank, smaller tanks. I like sticking with the dwarf varieties or pygmy varieties of Cory. Some Cory can get quite large, you know, and you want to make sure that you're providing a proper tank for them to be in. But sticking with the smaller varieties, my favorite happen to be the panda Cory, because they do stay relatively small, or the dwarf albinos, but panda Corys really are my favorite. Again, they are fairly sociable, so they do prefer to be in groups. So again, minimum of 3. I try and keep them in colonies of 5, but I found that 3 is actually still even okay if you're working on a smaller tank. Now, they do have sensitive barbels, you know, their little whiskers as they go cleaning around. So it is better if you have them in a tank that either has some sort of sand area for them to be rooting around in, aqua soils, because their pelletized dirt, you know, are quite soft on them, or if you're using a coarser substrate like a fluorite or an eco-complete, make sure that you've actually got adequate carpet coverage, something that they're not going to be really scraping around on. Now, I've seen them crawling around on my rough lava rock without any problems, but you want to make sure that you're at least having them in a tank that's suitable for them, and giving them enough room to root, because they do like to root around. And that's why they make excellent bottom cleaning fish. So as I said, they make fantastic bottom cleaners. So they will go around and they will pick up fish waste, definitely discarded food, like extra food if you have fed too much or someone's not eating. They will take up some discarded plant material as well. They just keep your substrate area, again, really nice and clean, free of a lot of types of detritus. Again, this is not, you're not meant to use them instead of proper tank maintenance, but just to help you stay on top of these things, you know, for the little human errors you might make along the way. And again, they're they can be a little bit skittish at times. You know, they'll find their little areas and hide out, but I guarantee they will start, once they start going, and it's almost like a little vacuum cleaner. You know, they travel around and they take care of your whole substrate area. And they're really nice little guys to watch doing their thing. Again, because they're such a social fish, it's cool to see them in their little communities doing their thing. And they're fine with Otos, and they're fine with shrimp, and they're fine with just about every other kind of fish that you will put in your tank. Same with Otos and shrimp. These are all very good community additions to your cleanup crew in your tank. Now, a lot of people do like to add, say, pleco as part of the cleanup crew. I personally have never found plecos to actually be that good of cleaners. You know, yes, they will eat, you know, some algae that may appear on your glass. Yes, they will eat a little bit of the waste in the bottom, but again, even the dwarf plecos can get a little bit larger. And they're brutes when it comes to planted tanks, and they do like to muck things around, and you'll find stuff pull up. They do need wood in the tank. It will eat on the wood, which different people have seen can actually cause issues. That a very industrious pleco will actually stir up a lot of wood waste at times coming off some of your hardscape, and which can lead to excess dissolved organics, which can cause algae issues. So I'm not a big fan of plecos when it comes to cleanup crew, and prefer to stick in the cat region with Corys and Otos myself. So there you have it. Those are my 4 picks for my cleanup crew in my tank, and like I said, pretty much every tank that I set up for a planted tank has those 4, or at least a combination of 3 of those 4 in the tanks. And as I said repeatedly and at the beginning, these are not meant to be problem solving for when algae has broken out in your tank. These are not, you know, meant to be a fixer. They can do this, but as we'll discuss in another video, it's an improper way to deal with an algae issue. You know, if you're adding fish to deal with an algae issue, you're not actually getting to the root of what caused the issue in the first place, and that's the problem. A cleanup crew is just to help, you know, augment and supplement your maintenance in your tanks. So I mean, let's call it number 5, the best additions to the cleanup crew. It's you know, it's us. Cleaning up our tanks and maintaining our tanks properly, you know, is one of the most fundamental aspects of this hobby, and will solve and inhibit a myriad of issues. I would almost go as far to say almost every issue in a planted tank can be solved by good use of the fundamentals, including maintenance. So again, the cleanup crew is just meant to augment that, to keep, you know, taking care of stuff that you might have missed, or that because life happens you might have been a little bit lax on, you know. And again, all these ones that I mentioned, they survive very well in just about every parameter that we typically use in the planted tanks. They're all fine with CO2 injection. You know, so if you're doing pressurized CO2 injection, they're fine. They're all good in low-tech. They have no problems with any of the fertilizers we add into the tanks. Some of them can breed quite well and spontaneously, so the colonies are easy to maintain. They're not large waste producers themselves, you know, so they're not adding a significant bioload to your tanks. And in the combinations of them, what they are adding in bioload to your tanks is being cleaned up by the others, you know, and used by your tank and cleaned up by you, you know. And so that's why I think it's just a fantastic all-around thing to have in your planted tank. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for sticking with me during that little bit of a hiatus there. I tend to go through them every once in a while, but like I said, I've got some fairly good plans for things to continue on. I'm going to keep going with the Foundations in Aquascaping series, you know, and taking us right back to the start and working our way through for beginners as well as intermediate and advanced aquarists. I've got some more design series coming up in mind, some more species, some demo setups, everything that I have been talking about and had started. You know, we're back into the roll of things. You will see progress as I start to further set up my fish room. But again, the channel is growing. Thank you so much for that. You know, I hope it continues to grow. Thank you for all of the feedback and the comments down there. I do my best to respond as fast as I can. Do hit subscribe. Do share these around. You know, please get more people interested into it. Those of you who are part of some of the Facebook groups, Low-Tech Planted Tanks, Planted Aquariums of Canada, High-Tech Planted Tanks, Aquascaping the World, you see me on there talking about different things. A lot will show up in videos. But don't be shy. You know, say hello, comment below, hit subscribe, find me on Facebook, you know, just thanks, you know, thanks for watching. Dive right in.